Okay, we are on our first unit of Indian English Literature, MEG 7. Let's continue. Forms and varieties of prose. So we will complete this portion and we will try to, we will finish first unit and then we will go with the important questions. Okay. Forms and varieties of prose. The French poet Valéry compared prose to walking and verse to dancing. So French poet Valéry, he compared uh, prose to walking and verse to dancing. Verse is the more stylized form. So this may be asked in maybe any of your competitive exam. Who compared prose to walking and verse to dancing? So it is Paul Valéry. Verse is more stylized form. We know that, right? While prose is functional and used for non-literary purposes also. But this does not mean that prose is a lower form. Prose can employ all the rhetoric techniques like simile. You know what is a simile? Yeah, simile is a comparison, right? He is brave like a lion, or her face is as bright as the sun. So simile is a comparison, a comparison, a comparison, a comparison. Okay, a comparison using like or as, a comparison using like or as. And okay, where have we reached? Okay, so yeah, like simile, then metaphor. What is a metaphor? A comparison without using like or as. We can say time is money, he is a lion. All these comes under metaphor. Then personification. Personification, giving human qualities to non-living things. The wind whispered through the trees. The sun smiled at us. So personification. And hyperbole. What is hyperbole? An exaggerated statement, not meant to be taken literally. I have told you a million times. I am so hungry I could eat a horse. Then understatement. Okay. We studied like hyperbole. After hyperbole comes understatement. Okay. Understatement. Saying something is less important or less serious than it really is. After a huge storm, it's just a little rain. After scoring very high, I did okay. These all are examples for a understatement. And you have irony. Irony means when the opposite of what is expected happens. A fire station burns down. What a beautiful day. It's really raining and you're saying what a beautiful day. It's called irony. That versus uses. Prose too can be rhythmic, though rhythm in prose is different from the music of poetry. Literary genres can use either prose or a verse. Traditionally, the epic has always been in verse, but the qualities of an epic can be found in Leo Tolstoy's War and Peace written in prose. The novel is usually written in prose, but the great Russian poet Pushkin Eugene's, but the great Russian poet Pushkin's Eugene Onegin is a novel written in verse. Inspired by Pushkin, Vikram Seth has written a novel in the form of sonnets, The Golden Gate. So Vikram Seth has written a novel in the form of sonnets, that is Golden Gate. Drama can be either in verse or prose. Greek drama and Elizabethan drama, which followed that tradition, was in verse. Shakespeare's tragedies are great poetic dramas, but he has many prose passages in his comedies, which are interspersed, means scattered or mixed here with the songs, here and there with the songs. Modern English drama is in prose. T.S. Eliot is the only playwright to successfully attempt poetic drama. Poetic confers a certain heightening. Prose is derived from the Latin word meaning direct, straightforward. So let's listen this and try to understand. There are different literary forms of prose, the short story and the novel. The fictional forms of prose do not concern us in this block. We shall devote our attention to the main non-fictional forms, the essay, biography, and autobiography, and the travelogue. Essay is derived from the French word meaning attempt. So, essay is derived from the French word meaning attempt. An essay is a prose composition of moderate length devoted to some particular topic. Essays are of two types, formal essays and personal essays. Formal essays written by scholars in any field with the sole purpose of conveying ideas are also referred to as articles. Journals like Critical Quarterly or the Journal of Commonwealth Literature publish articles of literary criticism. A formal essay discusses the topic concerned in an objective and impersonal manner. A formal essay discusses the topic concerned in an objective and impersonal manner. Its primary purpose is to impart knowledge in a formal essay. The personal essay written in a light style seeks to entertain the reader. The style of the essay is often conversational. It can be anecdotal. What is anecdotal? Based on short personal stories, not detailed, and generally reveals the personality of the author. In English literature, the essays of Elia, written by Charles Lamb, are famous specimens of the personal essay. A biography is the story of the life of an individual. Unlike history, which concentrates on facts and figures, a biography tries to project the personality of the subject, helping the reader to share that person's hopes and fears. In an autobiography, the author is his own biographer, so it tends to be more subjective. Events are seen through the consciousness of the protagonist. Of course, the passage of time may give much objectivity to the recollection. Another big difference between a biography and an autobiography is that an autobiography is more selective in the incidents it's describes. So, another big difference between a biography and an autobiography is that an autobiography is more selective in the incidents it describes. A biography can cover the whole life of the subject from birth to death and even discuss the reputation after his death. An autobiography is necessarily incomplete. Often, when somebody write about himself, he would like to talk only about his good deeds or good works. Not everything. But in a biography, it's not that way. An autobiography is necessarily incomplete, but it has the great advantage of presenting events at first hand because somebody is talking about himself, right? The writer can describe what he has experienced personally. A travelogue is an account of the writer's travels. In this autobiographical account, the focus is on the places and people he has met in his travels, not on events in the author's own life or his personality. English literature has a strong tradition of travelogues. Addison, 1672 to 1719, the father of the periodical essay, wrote a travelogue. So did the early English novelist Tobias Smollett, 1721 to 1771. Indian English literature too has many travelogues, starting with Dean Mohammad's The Travels of Dean Mohammad through several parts of India, 1794. We have been talking about the forms of non-fiction prose. Let us now examine the different varieties of prose employed by writers. Whether in fiction or non-fiction, there are three main varieties: descriptive, narrative, and expository prose. These are not exclusive categories. A writer may use two or all three types in the same passage. Descriptive prose can be used to describe a person, a thing, or a place. A good description vividly recreates the object or event in such a way that we feel that we ourselves have seen, heard, and experienced it. Some descriptions can be impressionistic, showing personal feelings or general impressions. That is, they present things from a particular, very personal point of view. An impressionist description reveals not just the object, but the sensibility of the person who is observing it. On the other hand, we can have descriptions, especially of places, which have a kind of photographic realism. When we read the passage, we feel that we are looking at photographs or videotapes of the place. Narrative prose describes events. A narrative deals with what happens over the course of time. It is the action which absorbs our attention. Narration can be slow or fast. It can be exciting, colorful, and heightened, or matter of fact and factual. It can be highly imaginative or purely objective. A narrative can deal with external happenings, public events, or interpersonal relationships. The writer can also narrate internal events, the changing feelings and emotions. Non-fiction prose forms like biographies, autobiographies, and travelogues deal with factual narratives, while novels and short stories deal with the events born of the writer's imagination. Of course, there can be no rigid rule. Good historical novels incorporate a lot of historical facts into the narrative, while autobiographies can be so imaginative that the facts are not important. We also have a kind of fiction based on actual events, such a novel in is called a faction, means fact plus fiction, that is faction or non-fiction novel. Truman Capote's novel In Cold Blood 1966 deals with the crime and punishment in Kansas based on interviews with the accused. Norman Mailer used the term true life novel for his work The Executioner's Song 1979 because it chronicles the life and death of Gary Gilmore, a murderer who demanded his own execution in Utah. Novels and short stories give more scope for the writer to employ different narrative voices, but narrative prose has an important place in nonfiction too. Expository prose defines or explains a subject. Scholarly writing on science, technology, philosophy, religion, political science, economics, etc. falls under the category of expository prose. It presents details concretely and clearly in a logical sequence. The aim of the writer is not to describe something or narrate a story, but to present facts and ideas. Good writers use many devices to present their subject effectively. This includes the use of examples to illustrate their point, varying their tone from one of public rhetoric. What do you mean by rhetoric? The art of speaking or writing effectively to persuade people, to one of personal conversation, narrating interesting anecdotes. Anecdotes means short, interesting real life stories, presenting analogies, comparison used to explain something clearly in support of their argument, and use of figures of speech like simile, metaphor, and personification. Much of non-fiction prose is explicitory, explaining something clearly in nature. But this does not mean that expository prose has no place in fiction. Many great novels, such as Tolstoy's, present the writer's views on life and society. Whether it is fictional or non-fictional, prose should be read as closely as verse. In analyzing prose, we should examine the diction of the writer. What do you mean by diction? Choice of words used by the writer, the words he uses, the range of his vocabulary, the syntax, the arrangements of words in a sentence, and the structure of the sentences deserves attention. Are they short or long? Does he use simple sentences or does he prefer complex sentences with many clauses? What do you mean by phrase and clause? You know, right? Yeah, clause is group of words that have a subject and a verb. But in a phrase, it could be a group of words, but it will give a meaning. And qualifying parenthetical comments, extra information in the sentences. The Victorians had perfected the periodic sentence, long elaborate sentences with many balanced clauses. We should also examine rhythm, how the sentences flow, the structure of paragraphs, and the writer's use of punctuation also reveals his style. But it is not possible to analyze the style in isolation from the meaning. The literary meaning of anything depends on how it is said. A simple paraphrase of what is said does not constitute the full meaning of the text under analysis. The units which follow are devoted to leading prose writers. Units 2 and 3 contain expository prose, but the writers make good use of description and narration to explicate their subject. The next two units are devoted to the most famous Indian English autobiographies, Nehru's and Chowdhury's. In the last unit, we shall read two recent travelogues. Summing up, even though the beginning of Indian English writing is not fully documented, in this unit we have traced the earliest accounts of non-fictional prose and surveyed the field by referring to various authorities on the subject and the currently writing authors. We have also acquainted you with the form and varieties of prose. Finally, though in terms of form, prose is considered the simplest, we have tried to tell you that it does have the same literary merit as a poem, a drama, or a novel. The reading, so these readings also you have to consider. This reading list is in two parts. Part 1 lists some important books of non-fiction. It is by no means a comprehensive list and does not include the books which have been prescribed in the syllabus. Part 2 contains some books of criticism. More will be found in the reading list in each unit of this block. As non-fiction, Rajmohan Gandhi, Understanding the Muslim Mind, New Delhi, Penguin Books, 1987. Jawaharlal Nehru, S. Gopal, Jawaharlal Nehru, a biography, Dean Muhammad, The Travels of Dean Muhammad. Then H. Mitchell, Fishers, the first Indian author in English. Okay, that's Ved Mehta, The Stolen Light. R.K. Narayan, A Writer's Nightmare. Nayanthara Sagal, Prison and Chocolate Cake. Jug Suraya, The Great Indian Boss. K.R. Iyengar, K.R. Srinivas Iyengar, Indian Writing in English. Naik M.K., A History of Indian English Literature. Okay, same studies in Indian English Literature. Perspectives on Indian Prose in English. Narasimhaya, The Swan and the Eagle. Okay, so that's the first unit. There is so much to understand. It's not possible to explain everything. It's such a huge portion. Okay, so it's more of like, it's not like explaining and understanding everything. You have to listen and try to understand the concepts. So that is about the first unit. Now, what we will do is we will study from the guide also, the important questions, so that will really help you to prepare for the exam. Okay, so next class we are going to discuss about Swami Vivekananda, Sri Aurobindo, and Ananda Kumara Swami. Okay, that's we are going to discuss in the unit 2. Okay.